the rival chains that split a community. It began with a disagreement so small that few believe it could fracture an entire movement. A single debate buried in forums and developer threads slowly grew into a divide that no one could ignore. What started as a technical question soon evolved into a clash of visions, values, and identities. And before long, the community that once stood united behind a shared mission found itself drifting toward an irreversible split. Today, this moment is remembered as one of the most dramatic turning points in cryptocurrency history. To understand why it mattered, and why the echoes of that split still shape the digital economy, we must revisit the fragile period when multiple chains emerged from a single origin. Because long before these networks competed in the open, their conflict began in silence. The tension formed quietly. As use increased, the original chain struggled to keep pace. Fees rose. Transactions queued for hours. The community faced a challenge: evolve or risk stagnation. But evolution is never simple, especially in a decentralized system with no leader to enforce a direction. Every voice carried weight. Every idea stirred emotion. And every proposed solution exposed deeper differences in what the network was meant to become. The reveal unfolded when two visions emerged, each pulling the chain toward a different future. One group believed scalability required immediate, bold expansion, bigger blocks, faster throughput, more capacity. They argued that growth was essential for mass adoption. The other group insisted that security and decentralization mattered more than speed. They warned that expanding too quickly could weaken the network's foundation. The disagreement was philosophical at first, then practical, then personal. Developers defended their principles. Miners defended their incentives. Users defended the experience they believed represented the network's true identity. A fork was approaching, the kind that doesn't just divide code, but divides people. And as emotions rose, the question loomed: could a decentralized movement survive when its greatest conflict came from within? The divide sharpened as each side grew more certain of its vision. Developers published proposals outlining their preferred direction, each document layered with technical reasoning and philosophical conviction. Miners weighed in next, choosing the path that aligned with their hardware, their incentives, or their beliefs. Businesses added pressure, urging whichever solution best supported their customers. What had once been a slow-moving debate now felt like a countdown. Rumors spread across forums and social channels, turning technical nuances into emotional talking points. Supporters of larger blocks argued that without immediate scaling, the network would choke under its own success. They pointed to rising fees, delayed confirmations, and frustrated users as evidence that change was overdue. Opponents countered that rapid expansion risked centralization, making the chain vulnerable to powerful actors and weakening the very principles that set it apart from traditional finance. The conflict intensified when test networks emerged, each attempting to prove its approach was superior. Benchmarks, stress tests, and performance metrics became ammunition in a growing ideological war. Every improvement on one side sparked a rebuttal from the other. The deeper the tests went, the more entrenched both camps became. Exchanges began preparing for possibility of a split, updating interfaces, and warning users about potential disruptions. Wallet providers issued cautious statements. Analysts predicted chaos. The community found itself living in two realities at once. One where a compromise might still be possible, and another where the chain would fracture into competing networks with competing dreams. As a proposed fork date approached, emotions reached a breaking point. Some users felt betrayed, believing their vision for the network had been dismissed. Others felt energized, convinced they were fighting for the chain's future. Social spaces became battlegrounds of frustration, hope, fear, and determination. The original unity that had defined the movement had dissolved into factions speaking past each other, each convinced the other was risking everything. The technical debate had become inseparable from human identity. People weren't just defending code, they were defending their perception of what decentralization meant, what innovation required, and what the next decade of digital money should look like. Every argument carried the weight of a future imagined, now threatened by fragmentation. And then came the moment no one could avoid. The software changes were set in motion. Nodes around the world prepared to choose which version of the chain they would follow. Block by block, With every sync machine and every updated miner, the split drew closer. The community held its breath. The fork was no longer a distant possibility. It was a decision encoded in software ready to unfold, a decision that would test not only the resilience of the network, but the resilience of the people who built it. When the fork finally activated, the world witnessed a moment unlike anything the cryptocurrency space had ever experienced. Two chains emerged from one origin, each carrying the same history, the same early blocks, the same genesis, yet propelled forward by different visions. What had once been a single community was now split into rival networks, each claiming to be the rightful heir to the mission that started it all. The emotional impact was immediate. Users watched their balances duplicate across chains, unsure which version held the real value. Exchanges scrambled to support both assets. Traders speculated wildly as prices diverged. Confusion rippled across the ecosystem. It felt like a digital identity crisis unfolding in real time. But the deeper conflict went far beyond markets. It was cultural, philosophical, personal. Supporters of the new chain celebrated what they saw as a rebirth, a chance to correct what they believed had been holding the network back. They envisioned a future powered by speed, scalability, and global accessibility. Meanwhile, the original chain's defenders stood firm, convinced that preserving decentralization and long-term security mattered more than short-term performance gains. To them, tradition wasn't resistance, it was protection. This ideological divide reshaped the community. Influencers chose sides publicly. Developers split into new teams, each working relentlessly to strengthen their chosen network. Conferences and meetups turned into parallel worlds. Even friendships suffered as debates grew sharper, fueled by the belief that the future of digital money depended on choosing the right path. Meanwhile, miners found themselves navigating shifting incentives. Some migrated instantly to the chain offering higher profitability. Others refused to abandon the original chain they had supported for years. A few split their resources, hedging their bets as the dust settled. Mining pools adjusted. Hash rates fluctuated. For the first time, the community confronted the reality that decentralization didn't guarantee unity. It guaranteed the freedom to diverge. Outside the ecosystem, observers were captivated. Economists analyzed the implications of a monetary system that could physically split itself. Governments watched with concern, realizing that decentralized networks could evolve in ways no regulatory framework had prepared for. And newcomers were left trying to understand how a technology built on trust and consensus could fracture into two competing versions of truth. As days turned into months, the rivalry intensified. Each chain pushed updates, improved infrastructure, and rallied supporters. One surged in adoption, the other found strength and resilience. Critics predicted the weaker chain would die, yet refused to vanish. Supporters claimed that survival alone proved its necessity. The competition created innovation, but also created tension that cut deeper than anyone expected. And beneath all the noise, an unspoken question lingered. Had the split strengthen the ecosystem through diversity or weaken it by dividing its energy? Was competition the ultimate expression of decentralization, or the beginning of fragmentation that could never be reversed? The emotional peak grew sharper as both chains approached defining milestones, moments that would either validate their existence or expose their vulnerabilities. The community, still healing from the original fracture, braced itself. For in this rivalry lay a truth no one could escape. Once a chain learns it can split, the possibility of further fractures always remains. The rivalry reached its defining moment when both chains unveiled upgrades they claimed would shape the future. Each community watched closely, hoping their chosen path would prove its worth. Developers worked tirelessly. Miners prepared their infrastructure. Users debated endlessly. And then, block by block, the truth revealed itself. The climax unfolded with quiet intensity. One chain demonstrated speed and throughput that impressed even its fiercest critics. The other showcased resilience, security, and global adoption that remained unmatched. Both delivered on parts of their promise, yet neither achieved a decisive victory. Instead, something unexpected happened. The ecosystem adapted to the reality of coexistence. In the aftermath, The fear of fragmentation gave way to acceptance. Innovation accelerated as each chain pushed the other to improve. Features that were once experimental became standard. Ideas dismissed by one side found life on the other. The competition created a dynamic environment where progress came from diversity, not unanimity. But the emotional reflection carried a softer truth. The split had not been a failure. It had been a milestone, a reminder that decentralized systems are built on freedom, even when that freedom leads to division. The chains became symbols of choice, representing different philosophies shaped by the same origin, and the community, once fractured, slowly rediscovered a shared respect for the journey that brought them here. Looking back, the fork revealed something essential. Decentralization isn't about preventing divergence. It's about giving people power to choose their own direction. The strength of the ecosystem didn't come from avoiding conflict, but from surviving it, learning from it, and evolving because of it. And now, as new networks emerge and old debates echo across the digital landscape, one question lingers, one that reaches beyond any single fork, chain, or community. Sometimes the smallest shift in perspective becomes the beginning of a new future.